Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be rebuilding this 2016 Cadillac Escalade. Today we're going to be focusing on this 2016 Cadillac Escalade build that I did about a year ago. Bought it from Copart. So for you guys that don't know much about Copart, it's basically like a platform for buying vehicles that were involved in accidents, insurance write-offs basically. Some of them have salvage titles, some of them don't. This Cadillac behind me didn't. It had a nice clean title, which is good. When they start getting into frame damage and stuff that's like deeper than the exterior cosmetics, I'd say, is when they start salvaging or calling them branded salvage titles and whatnot. So that wasn't the case with this one. So since this auction is basically all sight unseen, you're kind of bidding on these things blind. So you never really know what you're going to get until it shows up. This one I'm actually pretty pleased with. Now, spoiler alert, this one is already here. It's already been repaired. I'm recording this after the repair is already done because I didn't have very good footage of the build at the time when I first got it. I didn't have the equipment. We've been driving it for about a year now. It's my wife's vehicle. It's reliable. They did have a few little hiccups along the way after I got it repaired. So these are the things when you buy again from auction. Not only do you not see the vehicle in the condition, you also don't know how it actually works on the road. So this one has this 8-speed or 6-speed transmission in it, and it was doing some jumping around and whatnot. So when I first got it on the road, I thought there was something to do with the accident. It turned out that it was just the transmission and it needed a fluid change. So other than that, it's been a pretty good vehicle. It's very clean, got no rust on it at all. It's got one of those little devices for inducing a current into the body. I think that's how it works, and then it doesn't allow the rust to form. So I'm very pleased with that. I've seen a bunch of these things that are pretty rusty underneath, so this one's actually very nice to see that it was in the condition that it was. So the three things I'm going to talk about today, guys, are the actual rebuild. So I'm going to take you through the videos that I recorded of how this thing was rebuilt. You guys could get an idea of what it takes to rebuild something like this if you are considering it. I'm also going to talk about buying from Copart, specifically as a Canadian trying to buy from. This one came from a Canadian auction, but there is the option to buy from the US, which I have done as well. And then also just the overall cost of what it got to get it to this point, which is basically, I would say 99. I would even call this one 100% complete at this point. So anyways, I'm not going to drag you guys through the mud here. I'm just going to tell you what the price was up front. So it cost out the door from Copart, it was $18,000. $14,700 is what I bid up to. There was a $1,000 buyer's fee and then a bunch of little fees on top, like gate fees and all this other nonsense. Plus taxes. So taxes applicable to everything. So you would put it all together and then you apply HST to it. It cost me just over $18,000 out the door. Plus another $1,000 to get it shipped here. So at the time, these things were selling for around let's say maybe $35,000. And this is, like I said, a clean title vehicle. So I'll talk a little about that as the value of these things at the end, or at the end of the video as well, about how the price is affected by this, I guess, the state of the ownership. So if it's branded salvage, how that affects the resale, and then if it's a clean title but always has this history of being in the accident, how that affects the price. So I will touch on that a little bit. If you guys listen to the end of the video, it's there as well. Yeah, so as far as the damage goes, I'll take you guys through, and I'm just going to flip this around here. So the damage was to the back of the truck here. So basically that door, a little bit of the front door, the back door, like I said, this tire was replaced, the running board was replaced, and there was a little bit of damage here on the quarter. So this side of the truck was painted right from, I think he blended into the doors a bit, to the front door, because with this paint, so we replaced this door with a white door. However, the white wasn't the right color, so they had to repaint the entire white and blend it into the two adjacent doors and the quarter panel. And then on top of that, like I said, the damage is always a bit more extensive than you see. So there was some damage to the interior piece here, which you guys will see in the video. And then I did have to put a new tire on it, and you can see this mark right here is actually where it hit. I think it might have been a car that sideswiped it, or maybe a guardrail or something. But anyways, it just gives you an idea. Like I said, it's pretty much 100%. There's nothing else I have to do with this one. It turned out nice. The paint job turned out nice. Everything blends together well. Yeah, and there's no airbags or anything that went out on this one, so I don't have to worry about any of that stuff either, which is nice. So let's get on with the rebuild. Here you guys will see what the truck looked like when it arrived at my house, more or less. I have already placed the tire in this video. It was popped with a big slit in it. But anyways, the door you can see is damaged. Probably the most, or was definitely the most. The running board was damaged. And then there was a little bit of damage, which you can't really see here, to the front door and to the quarter. On the inside, which I'm going to open up here now, you'll see that the damage went through the door into the dog leg just a little bit, just enough to do, push that in. So I do have to push that out, as you guys will see later in the video how I did that, so that there would be a proper seal between the door and the dog leg. Today's project is just taking this door off, and we're going to try to swap it out with another one I picked up at a junkyard. Same color, same everything, same year. Leave the window in, just pull the door panel off, door handle off, and then mount it. Which looks pretty straightforward. So on the Escalade door, I just found out the hard way. You don't have to take the door panel off to remove the door. You just gotta disconnect the electrical. It's got a little clip here. Pull that back, and this thing comes out. And then 2 bolts here, 2 bolts here, and 2 bolts, or 1 bolt here. The whole door comes right off. So while the door was off, I took advantage of the opportunity and cleaned up the pillar a bit. This particular area is pretty hard to get to when the door is in place, so I may as well take advantage of the opportunity here and get it done while I have the door off. So I called my wife over for a bit of help here. As you can see, we're just kind of grabbing the door, setting it on the jack, and then she's going to push it a little bit closer to where it needs to be while I line up the bolts. There's just the 4 bolts here, so it's pretty easy to line it up. You just basically get it close and then stick them in place, and then we can do fine tuning afterwards. So doors installed here. Biggest challenge was just getting this little rod to come out. For some reason it was broken on the other one. I'm lucky I had one on the other door there. But anyways, it's all back together now. I do have to be a bit careful because I do think, well, obviously this is punched out a bit. I don't want it to scratch right here on the new door. So I'm going to take maybe a piece of tape or something and stick it in there. So here's a first look at the truck here, guys. So as you'll see in a second, the door was the wrong color. Basically, Cadillac offered two colors in 2016. There was a pearl white, and then there was this bright white, which is what the color of the truck is. The pearl white is a bit more of a beige color. You don't really notice until they're right next to each other, but they're obviously different. Anyways, I decided to just go ahead and keep on with the project. I realized that I will have to take the door off to get it painted at some point. Okay, so guys, you can kind of see here how far this is punched in. So it's probably a pretty minor accident. The old door was punched in as well, but you can see there's a bit of a gap here, which is what I'm going to try to close up. So what we found here is that not only does it have a bit of damage right here, but it's also separated. It's also separated the two panels here. So we have to push this out. I'm going to put a little ram bar between here and here, and pull this out, and then this is going to straighten itself out. And then once it's closer to the position, we can kind of get that back where it's supposed to be there. And ideally, you should probably put a couple spot welds in there.
What are you doing?
So we got the rod jammed between the bracket here. Landon. Watch out, this is dangerous here, okay? We gotta step back a bit, okay? So what we're gonna do here is just put a bit of pressure on this. Ready? And we're gonna see how much we can pop this guy out with here. Ready? Until it slips. See how it's kind of pulling that bracket back right here? You can see that thing's taking shape again here. Okay, you can let that off a little bit. Reposition slightly. So that came out about an inch already. You see that, bud? So I'm going to try to get this on a bit more on here. Try not to bend anything behind it. Okay. That's coming up pretty nice there. Now I need to get the hammer.
I need this one to spare.
Okay, coming out a bit there.
Oh, I'm fixing this with a hammer.
I have to close the door in a second to see how close it is, okay? Put a little extension on it. Let's see if we can push off of this.
Oh, they don't have the right thing. See?
Yeah, I need a little extension, dude. Could you pass me? We need a little longer extension. Pass me this one right here. Thank you.
Oh, it's heavy.
Oh yeah. You're an ATV, eh? What is it? Like? Sounds like an APT to me. Okay, so I'm gonna pull it on here. So I'm gonna speed this up a bit because this is kind of dry, but basically I'm just using this little push bar and kind of working my way up and down this indentation until it's more or less flush or where it should have been. The reference point is basically the door, so you every once in a while I close the door to see how close it was to where it needs to be. There is a seal between this area and the door, so that's kind of my guide. As soon as I get a little compression to that seal, I know that it's in the right spot. So once the outside was more or less in position, I moved to this little interior piece, kind of like a little mud flap or cover or something. It was pretty flimsy metal, so I'm just kind of pushing it back into shape, using the ramrod, kind of supporting one end wherever I can grab a good handle. You can even see I went from the ground here at one point. And again, the goal here is just to get that thing back up to where it was. Everything else was already in place. It was just kind of straightening this last piece out. So the next step here, I'm basically taking everything off the door, stripping it down for paint. So like the door handle, the covers that go along the pillars, some of the stuff that sits on the inside, like the weather stripping and whatnot. I want the paint to go right around into the door jamb because it is a different color, all the way around up over the pillar, around the top of the window, and then behind the door handles, behind the trim, behind everything, so that there's no area that's missed here. So I'm missing some footage here, but I kind of went around the area and ground down to bare metal where I want to apply the filler and the primer. You can see here that the bodywork is nice and straight now. Everything's covered up and ready for a primer. Truck just came back from paint. Blended it in nice, looks good. Going to start to put it back together here. Hey. So I got the other door here. Just pulling some of this stuff off that I'm going to need. So some of the clips for the weather stripping broke. All these little guys here, very hard to get out, pretty much disposable, but some of them actually come out and you save them. And then these two panels in behind here are a little tricky. So there's a screw here, contrary to what's on the internet, there's a screw right here that has to come out. Otherwise you'll break the little retaining piece from the plastic. It'll stay on it. Sorry, it'll stay on the door, not on the plastic. So you got to remove this. And then there's two other little clips here and here on the back side of this, which I don't think you can actually save. I mean, they're so tiny, they just break off. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this guy off, which takes off the trim piece along the front of the door, and then I'm going to basically go in, not from this side, but from the other side with a pair of some plastic prongs and try to unclip this one. So I want to reuse this one. I'm going to see if I can try to save it. The other one, like I said, broke, but if I can save it, it's in good shape as well, so it doesn't matter which one I use. I just don't think I'll be able to get it off without them breaking. Same thing goes for this one. You actually want to unclip it and then pull it off this edge. So this is the back side of that piece, and it clips onto the frame of the door. Here you can see a bit better what I'm talking about. So these cover plates, these pillar covers, are what I'm taking from the other door and I'm putting them on this door. Same with the door handle, and then that little piece of chrome trim along the bottom. So with the outside pretty much 100% done now, I've moved to the inside. There's a bunch of plastic pieces around the top of the door, the speaker, all the weather stripping. So there's a seal that goes right around the perimeter of the door that you can see there. I'm using the clips that I pulled off of the old door and putting them back in. As it starts to get dark here, I start to get into moving the old door panel onto the new door as well. So you can see there's like a matting that goes over top of the hole, the cavity there. The next thing was to stick the door panel back on. This is from the old door going onto the new door now. It was a bit of a pain trying to get it over the top edge of the door, so it was fiddling around it for a little bit, but it does go on. It just takes some time to get it in the proper location. So the final step here was putting this running board on, so I was able to find one at a local wreckers that was the same. The old one was crushed in the back, so I did have to take it off, but the brackets were still good, so I went ahead and took them off. Here you can see just going underneath, working my way. I think there was 4 in total, or 3. So here I am removing them from the old ones, putting them on the new one, and then fastening the new one into place here. And just like that, this project was done. Okay, so I'm just back in the office here. Figured I'd touch base on a few things that I talked about in the intro there. So when you're buying from Copart, like I said, you are buying sight unseen. So whatever you buy, you may have not, or maybe you have actually taken the opportunity to go see it. You can if you want, but when you're bidding on a lot of vehicles and there's no guarantee that you're going to get any of them, you're going to drive 3 hours or something at the vehicle and then come back home and find out that, you know, it goes far beyond what you wanted to pay for it, which happens quite a bit. So I find that often you end up just taking, you know, the photos for what they are, you know, and you get lucky sometimes. A lot of the time you don't. The damage you see in the pictures is extensive than you'd think. So there's always more to it. This vehicle, this Escalade here is, I think this is number 10 for us or so, and I've rebuilt to quite a few in the past. So when you win the auction, you know, it's all exciting and whatnot, but then you have to deal with the payment, so you end up wire transferring the funds to you know, to their headquarters. Once the funds are received, they release the vehicle, and there's some logistics you have to set up with the auction facility for picking it up. So typically, I find, just because of the timing, usually I just send the truck to pick the vehicles up. As was the case with this, it was in the middle of the winter. I didn't want it to drive 3 hours with a trailer. It showed up when I wasn't home, which is great. They left it on the driveway in a good spot. You know, the vehicle didn't run when I got it, which is, again, often the case. So, you know, make sure that there's space on the driveway for it. But in this case, you know, he put it off to the side, which is good. Yeah, and then, like I said, the cost all in, so I bid up to $14,700. There was a few other bidders at the time bidding with me, or against me, I should say. There's $1,000 buyer fee on top of that. So depending on what, you know, where you fall in, which range you fall into, there's a buyer's fee that's paid on the amount that you bid to. I think it's around 7%. So there's $1,000 on top of the 14,700. And then there's a bunch of little fees, like your internet bidding fees, gate fees, all these little fees that kind of get rolled into that as well. So you take the lump sum of all that, and then you apply HST to everything. And this one came out to just over $18,000. So how did it all pan out? So I told you guys in the intro that we paid $18,100 for this truck, more or less, from Copart. I had to pay an additional $1,200 for shipping, which took this to $19,300. So basically, to my door, $19,300 is what I have into this. Now, once the project started, I paid an additional $2,000 for parts. Basically, for a door, the running board, I had to put a new battery in it, and then a tire. And then I put another $1,600 into paint, which I thought was very fair, bringing me to a total of $22,900. Now, keep in mind that this number is HST included. So what I would have paid on the showroom floor would have been closer to $20,000, okay? So the retail price of this Escalade in 2025, so a year later, is still around $32,000 in the current market. Now this truck does have a history of an accident. Nothing I can do about that. It's going to show up on the Carfax reports and whatnot. So typically I would apply like a 90% factor to this, because it is a clean title. It just has a history, which a lot of vehicles do nowadays. But nonetheless, it did happen. So I think 90% is a pretty fair number. So based on that, I would say retail value is around $29,000 plus HST, because you're gonna have to pay HST on top of that. So really, we're comparing this $20,000 with that. $29,000 that I'd pay on the showroom floor. So I'm up about $9,000 plus some difference in the HST that would be applicable, that number versus this number. And that pretty much sums it all up here, guys. So this vehicle I did pretty well on. That's not always the case. If you guys do like this content, I do have another couple projects on the go here. I just picked up a Moomba wakeboard boat that had a tree fall on it. And then I also have a Maserati Gran Turismo that also hit a guardrail, and it is a salvage title vehicle. So that was actually a few years ago. I'm just starting to put the videos together now. So if you guys like what you see here, subscribe and I'll see you next time.